You are running with the Devils, and coming to you a little bit later this week. I'm the RyKno, Ryan Knowles, here with me as always, Big John Caldwell. Big John, that was a rough one on Saturday, to say the least. The Devils get embarrassed by the Wazzou Cougars. Without a doubt, the worst performance in the Herm Edwards era, 34-21. But we're here to break it all down for you. We'll be talking Wazzou. We'll be breaking down this week's game against USC. As we always say, you give us 30 minutes, we give you the world of Arizona State football. And the world's spinning on a weird axis right now, Big John. ASU loses their second straight game, embarrassed, just no other way to say it. I mean, embarrassed at home by Washington State on Saturday, 34-21, and it wasn't even that close. ASU scored 14 points in basically garbage time. They turned the ball over 5 times. We'll get into the USC game as they try to right their season this week against the Trojans at home. But yeah, 5 turnovers, 3 lost fumbles, 2 interceptions this past Saturday. And then, they really dug themselves a hole early. They never were able to get out of. Each of their first 3 drives ended in turnovers. In 2 of the first 3 plays had turnovers, all of which led to 24 points in the first half for the Cougars. Just a bad situation the whole way around.
Yeah, they had us on our heels right away, and I think that the the strong suit of this team has been the defense has been really stout at times against the run, been pretty darn good against the pass, and I think that because we were stoned so early, I think they just shook up.
The defense can only do so much when your offense is giving you short fields.
Yeah, I mean the defense did not cough up the ball here.
No, exactly. Yeah, I'm not putting too much of this on the defense. I mean, I would like to see the DBs make some more plays on the ball than they did.
Yeah.
We'll on our quote of the week. Herm certainly talked about that. We'll get into that here in a minute. But yeah, ASU's offense has really struggled pretty much ever since the second half of Utah. In the past 6 quarters, they've been outscored 62-21.
Right.
And I mentioned 14 of that was in garbage time this past Saturday. And, it was really just those 5 turnovers that were really the difference in this game. I mean, ASU and Wazzou were almost identical in so many other major categories that was really the big difference. The only difference.
And this should not be the biggest surprise. Wazzou was the leader in turnovers in the pack and number 18 in the country in turnovers. So
we talked about their defense last week, how much better they've been. The ball hawking that they've been at. They've been punching the ball a lot more. And ASU should have been prepared for that. Really, I mean, a great deal of this, in fact, if not all, falls squarely on the coaching. Coaches should have had them better prepared and ready to play than they did, and they didn't. And that was, that's a big part of the problems with ASU football right now is the coaching. And I have been, you and I have both been stout proponents of Herm Edwards and his staff, and we're Herm Edwards fans on this show. We love Herm. We love Herm and everything he stands for. But right now, they're struggling. They're not getting the job done. I mean, this was by far the worst performance in recent history. I mean, really, since the Dennis Erickson era, just about, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, there's been some really bad Sun Devil games. I mean, the game. Everybody wants to talk about that 95-96 Rose Bowl team. The year before at Nebraska, they got freaking stoned. I mean,
27-28.
They put up 60 points before half.
Yeah, that one was pretty bad too. I mean, let's not play this game. Let's not go into the history of bad ASU football, because we'll be here a lot longer than 30 minutes.
Yeah, I just think that. Yeah, I think everybody's expectations were so big. And
ours were too. We wanted to be greedy. We were talking about, we kind of set the bar at 10 wins this year. Obviously that's out the window. At this point, we might be looking at another, kind of mid-level bowl, assuming the team can even get the season righted. I mean, they still got 4 games left, and two, you could make the argument 2 or 3 are against legit, big legit opponents that have played very well in stretches this season. So
I wouldn't have. I wouldn't have said Oregon. I wouldn't have said Oregon State at the beginning of the year.
We're
But I
not.
will
Yeah,
now.
we're not going to look ahead too far just yet. But just kind of finishing up with Wazzou. You know, Rashad White suited up but did not play in this game. He's a huge part of that ASU offense. I think they missed him quite a bit, but at the same time, you still got to be able to hang on to the football. And guys were putting it on the ground left and right. Jaden Daniels did not have a great game. He threw a couple picks. Really, it was like they didn't even come out ready. They really didn't come out ready to play.
Yeah,
it was. You knew what to expect from Wazzou. They've been doing this all year to teams, as far as forcing turnovers, and it was a problem. It was just really, really hard to watch. And I did something I never do. I left at halftime. I never ever do that.
that's true.
It was just so hard to watch. I was so frustrated.
I don't know who was more shocked, our fans or the Wazzou fans. I mean, I talked to a lot of their dads after the game, and they were like, "This is turning into something really interesting." And I said, "Why?" They said, "Well, because we're facing a coaching decision at the end of the year, and right now our kids want this coach. The guy who was coaching for them." And I said, "You're probably not going to see that. They're going to I said they're probably going to look
for the Wazzou dads."
Exactly.
Yeah.
They all said that the kids want this coach.
I was actually surprised how many Wazzou fans were there.
It's a great story. It's a great story, man. It's one of the best stories in college football. What they've been able to put together.
You definitely want to see them make their bones off of ASU's back. But ASU's got they've got some internal problems. I think that have been distraction. I mean, we'll talk about that here in a minute. But just ugly football right now the whole way around by ASU. I mean, you could see some guys just maybe not putting forth the best effort. They're either their heads aren't in the game or they're just they're just not getting the coaching or the hand holding I guess they need more than anything. As we we always do here, we usually pick out a couple quotes from Herm this week, and he was just as upset as everybody. I mean, he heard the boo birds, he heard what everybody was saying and yelling at him all week, and rightfully so. When your team plays that badly, you got to be ready to take some criticism. And he really put it on. He put it on himself. He put it on his players. Put it on his coaches. There was plenty of blame to go around after a game like this. Mm-hmm. So what happens now? I think where do you go after a game like this? Do you let it kind of fester and let it dictate the rest of your season, or do you go out there and just prove it's an anomaly and go out there and play like you have basically the entire time under Herm? Because at least this game is such an anomaly because Herm's teams have always been competitive. They've always been able to keep games within single digits. They've always been in the games all the way to the end. Even games they lost, they were maybe one or two plays away from winning.
Right.
This past Saturday, I mean, it was over by the end of the first quarter practically. You never saw that from a Herm team.
It was obviously digging out from three bad turnovers and three scores right away. It was just had them rocked. And they got hit in the mouth, and they see their own blood like that. Sometimes you just don't respond well at all. I'm not.
And again, that goes back to coaching. Coaches have got to have them prepared for a situation like that, for things like that. I mean, you're going to face adversity at some point during the season, and I just don't know. I just don't know if they're getting the coaching they need right now. Not playing very inspired, not playing very focused right now. As we, kind of close the book on Wazzou, I mean, you and I are going to kind of answer and address and answer some questions I think that everybody's got on their minds right now with this team, and that's, is the season over? Has Herm already lost his job? And we always do this after losses in this game on the show. What we learned, presented by the Valley Athletic Booster Club to support local athletics. Go to the Valley Athletic Booster Club.com. And I hate using this term because I hear it so often from people. Same old Sun Devils, and they're still the sleeping giant. Everybody thought this year would kind of be the year that they wake up and take this conference by storm, because it was so obvious that that it was wide open. This is kind of a down year for the Pac-12. Even though Oregon's ranked number 4 in the nation, they're not infallible. They're not unbeatable, and I think they've proven that. So, right now their division title hopes are mathematically still alive, but they're going to need a lot of help to still get there, and they're going to have to help themselves if they're still wanting to compete for the South title. But it's not looking good at all right now, bottom line. And coaching's an issue right now. It doesn't look like the coaches are engaged, and there's a trickle down effect with that. The players aren't engaged when that happens. And I don't know if it's if the NCAA investigation is happening. There's something else going on around the program right now, but they didn't have the team ready to play, and that says a lot coming off a disappointing second half against Utah, and then you have a bye last week. You have a whole week to get these kids squared away and ready to go for this game coming up, and you don't do it. There's a serious problem there when that happens.
I'm thinking that there may be a lot of distractions these kids have. The NC2A may be in a distraction. I think it's actually in my points here. I think the coaches it's more of a distraction to the coaches. They're under a lot more scrutiny. Some of them not being able to go on the road.
The pressure part of being a coach as much as
But when I say they're soft, I think you have to have consequences. You have to have boundaries, and you have to have consequences. And if people are not getting their job done, they're holding, offsides, all that dumb penalty stuff.
Well, but the penalties weren't as big of an issue in this game.
Yeah, I understand.
There were some untimely ones. I'll give you that. Having that holding penalty that negated the 50-yard touchdown run by Jaden was unfortunate. But there weren't a ton. As far as the number and the yardage, there wasn't a ton. So it wasn't like the cost them the game like it did against BYU.
So what I have this theory, and I developed it right after the podcast last week, or the last podcast rather. And it just kind of came to me that after Utah, I suddenly realized that especially as bad as the defense played in the second half, that it affected, and this happens in sports all the time, in team sports where you have an offense and a defense. The defense was so shelled in that second half against Utah that I thought it affected the offense. I think the offense looks up to the defense. That's where all the 5th and 6th year seniors are. That's where all the vocal leaders are. And when they're getting shelled, I think the younger offense guys look at them and go, "Oh God, our studs are getting their asses kicked, right?" And so I don't
know. There's some credence to that, I guess. I don't know. But again, that to me still goes back to coaching. Regardless of what one side of the ball is doing, the other side's still got to go out there and perform.
Well, I'll tell you,
I understand that one side oftentimes does set the tone for the other one. Certainly, I think that is certainly the case with a lot of teams.
How many times have you seen defense go out and make a big third down stop, rock them, pin their ears back and go get after a quarterback and sack them, and that charges up the offense. So it works. I mean, the two halves work off each other.
There might be something to that. Certainly, I think that there's the issues go deeper than that. But I don't know if the defense is going out there and playing well, that could certainly set the tone for the offense. That I think that is certainly the case. But the coaches have got to coach up the players enough to have resiliency to where if one side of the ball is not pulling their weight, the other side's got to pick up the slack. The resiliency's got to be there. Right now, it just isn't on this team.
No, I get you. I think it comes down to in practice, I don't see them making players, run laps, doing up downs, doing burpees, doing punitive stuff to make them realize.
And this is part of the coaching too. And this is a theory that I kind of have. Herm expects, coming from the pros, he expects his locker room to kind of police itself. For the upperclassmen to kind of police the lowerclassmen, the lowerclassmen to look up to the upperclassmen, and they lead by example, and everybody else follows. That just hasn't happened. No. I don't think this is not what they're doing right now is not working. I think that the coaches kind of need to step in now, take more of a hands-on approach, and get in somebody's asses, and yeah, make them do some of the running, some of the up downs, things like that. That remember, these are young kids. These are 18, 19, 20-year-old kids, and if they need, they got to have some discipline. They got to know that if they put the ball on the turf, they commit a bad penalty, there's got to be consequences, just not just in yardage during the game, but in film and then on the practice field as well. So, I think the coaches kind of need to take a more hands-on approach, get in with these kids, and not just let them police themselves, but let the grown-ups come in and take over and do their jobs.
Yeah, it may sound old school and may sound trite, but making a kid who's fumbling the ball, a team that's fumbling the ball, make them carry the ball around campus all week long and you never put it down. You go to bed with it. And a little
players under Snyder and Cush used to do that, and it worked.
It works. It sounds stupid, but it works. People at a certain point begin to understand that's job one. Don't put the ball on the ground.
Yeah, no matter bad blocking, defense is making plays. It don't matter if you're even if you still hang on to the ball, that's job. Yeah, like you said, job one. So that's I wonder what's going on with this team and where the majority of the blame often lies with the coaching. So that's what we learned, presented by the Valley Athletic Booster Club. So check out the valleyathleticsboosterclub.com. And then these are questions that everybody's kind of asking around the program right now. Where does the team go from here? Can this season still be salvaged? Can they, at least finish strong, even though they've kind of gone through a bad valley at this point? John, where does ASU go from here?
Well, I know you don't want to look ahead, but you have the opportunity to win 9 games and go to really do something. And 9 games with some help could win you the South. But you need a lot of help.
And like I said, they're not mathematically eliminated, but it's still looking like a long shot right now.
But a 9-win game, you get a Holiday or an Alamo Bowl. Anything but the Sun Bowl, please.
Not again.
Even using Ray's own words, we're tired of doing that and being in the middle, and 6 or 7 wins and getting mediocre bowls. We have to start being competitively consistent.
Yeah,
I
think he's the one who set the bar there. He's the one who said, "Hey, we want to be going to Rose Bowls every year. We want to be competing for conference titles. We want to be getting, finishing top 15 in the nation and getting 5-star recruits,
top 3 in the pack."
Yeah, that's where he set the bar, and this team was expected to do that, and they're, right now it looks like they're falling flat on their faces as far as meeting expectations, and just. Yeah. Oh, it's very frustrating as an ASU fan, a lifelong ASU fan like we are, to see this team kind of, not live up to expectations and not play as well as we've seen them this season. And
I tell you, somebody threw, and I don't subscribe to it, but I can understand why they said it. I have somebody who's been around this program since the early '60s, who came to me and said, I have a pipe. I have Dr. Crow's. I have Ray Anderson's ear, and I'm going to propose to him that Herm resign right before to the players before the SC game, and get them all charged up, and tell them he's leaving at the end of the year, and use that as motivation to win the last 4 games. Put it this way, it sounds far fetched, but that's the kind of thing that at least it's within the realm of possibility here. I'm not saying you should do it. I'm saying it's a way to go out and maybe give you a little bit of an edge for kids, because the kids love them and they want to win for them.
No, they're not playing like it. That's the thing. I look at, you can say all the right things to the media all the live long day, but unless you're going out there on Saturdays and actually playing up to the talent level that we come to expect, especially under this regime, and meet the expectations that the athletic director set, it's very frustrating. And that could certainly be the case. I mean, I still think this season can be salvaged, and I think that they can go to a decent bowl. They can still compete. They can still do some good things these last four games. It's not this. That's not to say this whole season is just a complete wash at this point. There's still 4 games to go. There's still chances for this team to go out there and prove everybody wrong who say that they're washed up, they're finished. Just forget it. It's easy to go out there and say that, but I still think this team's got a lot left in it, and but are we going to see it?
Well, I think if you're looking for where do you go from here, you have to say things don't change until there's a breakdown, and you got to try something new. I mean, we haven't completed.
I consider Saturday a breakdown. It's time to try something new right now.
Exactly. So it's been broken.
Yes.
You got to build it back up with something new, and I expect different kinds of players maybe getting balls. I mean, we talked about the use of Ngata more at running. We'll get into that in a minute. But thinking about we're having an abundance of receivers. For certain guys dropping balls wide open, that were for touchdowns in this last game was just sort of like, do you go back to the guy? I mean, Bunkley Shelton had that one, wasn't it? Bunkley had the one right at about the 5. He was wide open on that little slant route. Is that Bunkley?
I think that was and that was Thompson. I think that was Thompson who had that drop.
Okay.
Yeah, I know which one you're talking about. Right after Robertson had that interception off the shovel pass.
Right.
I mean, they had a prime opportunity to score and really get back in the game.
Came up the right side a little.
There was a slant right there, and he at least probably would have gotten the first down.
Oh no,
he was one-on-one with the guy, and might have even scored.
If you watch the replay, he would have scored.
He got it across his face. He was in perfect position. Should have caught the ball. Yeah, that was one of about a dozen plays.
And there's the first thing is just finishing. Doing your job, catching the ball, tight ends catching the ball, and then getting upfield. We still suffer from guys hearing the footsteps, and they get nervous, especially tight ends and some of these receivers, about going over the middle. But you clean up 4 or 5 of those.
Somebody out there who's not afraid to go over the middle. I think we've reached that point where loyalties and just favorites kind of just are just forgotten.
I want to know what has happened to the and I went back and looked at the productivity on defense of our 3 linebackers in the last game. They were way down the list. I mean, and while Butler made a couple flash a couple times, Soley had one. In general, the last 2 games, our linebackers have been worked, and I wonder if that's not where it starts.
You look at go to the Pro Football Focus and look at their grades. They're probably not grading out that well. I mean, maybe it is time to rotate some other guys in there. I know Eric Gentry's been getting a lot more reps. Maybe it's time to like for guys like McCullough, Connor Soley,
Schaefer.
Some other guys. Schaefer, thank you. Yeah, other guys to get some looks there. I mean, you go on down the line. I mean, the corners kind of got worked in this Washington State game. They're going to see another 40 passes in this game against SC.
Was it me?
Work some other guys in there.
Was it me, or did it seem like they were picking on Chase, who was coming back off of the broken ribs?
Definitely,
and
they were because anytime they went at Jack, he was, he was usually making plays on the ball.
He was right on the ball.
Yeah, and Chase was struggling, absolutely. So I mean, the receiver Calvin Jackson Jr. had himself a day. He had 8 catches, 139 yards. So
we made his highlight.
So
we made his freaking highlight film. Yeah.
I know. So I mean, maybe you're right. Maybe it is time to rotate some new blood in there. When Lou Holtz took over at Notre Dame, and he taking over for Jerry Faust. And the cupboard was a little bit bare, but he, wasn't afraid to play some of the underclassmen. And Herm has shown that he's not afraid to put some freshmen out there, let them go out and make plays. So why not? Some of these seniors aren't playing up to par. Give them a little wake up call by taking some of their reps away and see what happens.
Sure, and I think not only do those players know the reps are being taken away, but you need to walk up and say something like, "Are you ready to play now? Are you ready to ball out?"
They get complacent. Give them a wake up call.
Yeah.
They'll go. Real players, they'll go out there and respond. So maybe that's what it takes. So that'll close the book on Wazzou as we move on to USC, the University of Spoiled Children, as we like to call it here. they're in the midst of their own disappointing season. They were really thought to be the favorite. I think they were, I believe, preseason they were picked number 1 in the South, and they're middling. They're really muddling along right now. They're 4-4 on the season. They're ranked number 15 in the preseason. I think they got up to number 13 at one point, and they've really struggled on both sides of the ball. Between injuries,
Right.
Consistency has been a problem. That after their first loss of the season against Wazzou, Stanford, excuse me.
That was the game they got Helton fired. It was Stanford. They were so shook up. Yeah,
it was Stanford. After in game 2, they fired head coach Clay Helton. Associate head coach Dante Williams has been the interim head coach ever since. They're poised to make a name, play for a big name head coach in the offseason. There have been a lot of rumors flying around about James Franklin from Penn State, maybe Matt Campbell from Iowa State. It's another name. And then, even going into the pros and plucking Urban Meyer or Mike Tomlin's name has been thrown, but I don't. That one's kind of a long shot.
Did you mention Fickle from Cincinnati?
I did not, but
and the reason why I think he's got the inside track is because the AD from Cincinnati is the AD and he's a ball player's type. He's a ball player's type of AD.
Yeah, Mike Baum. Yes,
Baum. Yeah, and of course he hired Fickle at Cincinnati, and they're having a great year.
Yep.
I just want to point out something too. SC's very. It's when you think USC, you think dominating offensive line, dominating running game. No big backs. There's no backs
and good skill position guys.
Yeah, and it's just not there, folks. The other criticism that I completely, having watched every one of their games now, at least partial or complete games, they get 5-star kids. Reggie Bush's assessment is correct, or his criticism is correct. They are not being coached up. They are not being coached. They're no better when they leave than when they came in.
And that was the big criticism under Helton. They weren't getting any coaching.
That's what I mean.
Better. Yeah, you're absolutely right, and that's kind of why they've underachieved pretty much practically every year. When they go to the Rose Bowl the one year with Sam Darnold, but they haven't done anything of note other than that one really good season that they had. So, just looking at their offense, they run Graham Harrell, the former Texas Tech quarterback, runs kind of a not a true air raid. They will throw the ball quite a bit. They're kind of a pass first team, but their last week was their first game without star wide receiver Drake London, and this guy was such a huge part of their offense. I mean, through seven games, he had 38 receptions for over 1,000 yards and 7 touchdowns. So to put that into perspective, John, you made this point before the show. The ASU's leading receiver is Ricky Pearsall with 31 receptions. So, such a big part of their offense that they leaned on him so much, and rightfully so. I mean, the kid was an athletic freak for his size. And then one of their other top receivers, Brew McCoy, was expected to contribute this year. He's been suspended this season.
Was that some kind of abuse? He beat up his girlfriend.
It was an off the field issue. Yeah. I don't really know all the details, but it wouldn't surprise me if that wasn't the case. And then they've kind of flip-flopped on the quarterbacks quite a bit this year. I mean, both Slovis and Keaton Slovis, of course, from Scottsdale Desert Mountain, and then the other, Jackson Dart. They've both been hurt at different points in the season. They're both healthy now, but they're kind of platooning both guys. Both of them got reps last week against U of A. Slovis, they both have completed 66% of their balls. Slovis over 2,000 yards already, 11 touchdowns against 7 interceptions. Dart 6 touchdowns against just 2 interceptions. So they're having pretty decent years, but they've had trouble staying healthy. That offensive line has been very inconsistent. They've been hit quite a bit, and it's been a problem for them this year as far as the quarterback position. It's a big reason why they're 4-4 right now.
Yeah.
And then their running game, they got their workhorse, the Texas transfer Keontae Ingram, who's having a good year for them. 125 carries, 761 yards, averaging over 6 yards a carry, and five touchdowns on the season. He's been a decent receiver out of the backfield with 17 receptions as well. And you have to wonder, where's the production through the air going to come from? Because this is a team that likes to throw the ball. Gary Bryant and Taj Washington, as you can see there, the next leading receivers on the team. They're having decent years for being the number 2 and 3 receivers. But after them, there's only one other wideout with double-digit receptions. So, and they use the tight end, but he's not really a focal point of the offense.
Yeah, he's not. He's a blocker this year.
For the most
part. So you've got. Oops, there we are. On defense, you can describe their this kind of unusual three-man front they run.
They do use a three-man front, which is a little unusual for USC. They brought over Todd Orlando from Texas, and he'll run kind of a 3-4, 3-3-5 hybrid. They use much like the Tillman backer. They have what they call a rover linebacker, who's basically a safety linebacker hybrid. But then they also have a Mac. They have a rover linebacker. Those are the two middle guys. Then they have a B backer, which is kind of like the old devil backer under Todd Graham, who's kind of the stand-up outside linebacker.
Right.
And that's Drake Jackson. Drake Jackson plays that position very, very well.
Nice ball player.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, NFL scouts are drooling over this kid. He has got all the potential in the world to be a top pick come this spring. Having a decent year, 27 tackles, 7 tackles for loss, 5 sacks, and an interception on the year. He definitely anchors that defense with his pass rush. The MAC linebacker, Kanai Mauga, he's been a tackling machine for them. 53 tackles, 4 tackles for loss, a sack, and 2 pass deflections. And then the playing next to Drake Jackson is the defensive end Tuli Pulotu, who's had himself a nice year. His older brother Marlon is playing for the Eagles right now, but Tuli's got 31 tackles, 5 tackles for loss, 3.5 sacks, and he's also got a fumble return for a touchdown on the year. So he's really benefited playing with his hand on the ground next to Drake Jackson. And then in the secondary, they have the local kid from Mesa, Isaiah Polomau, who's having a decent year, but he's the free safety. The strong safety, Chase Williams, is the one who's kind of leading that secondary right now with 42 tackles, 2.5 for loss, and a sack on the season. So he's having a nice year as well. But the big thing with that USC defense is, I mean, they've allowed 30 plus points in 6 of the 8 games this year. Right. And I mean, U of A, as anemic as their offense has been, I mean, before last week, they had not cracked 20. U of A had not cracked 20 points in any game this season. And they put 34 up on USC defense last week, excuse me. This USC defense has really, really struggled.
To put this in context, folks, their pass defense is rated 80th in the country. Their rush defense, 57th in the country. So the defense really has issues. And we're going to get into this in a minute.
They're giving up almost 400 yards of total offense.
Yeah, and I want to put it to you here in the keys to at the next segment here, whether or not if you have to pick your poison, do you try to shut down the running game, 100 yards a game, or you try to shut down the passing game? So we'll get into that next.
You're talking about USC's defense.
Yeah, you got it.
Yeah, so that is a good question. And the keys to the game, as always, presented by XLLending.com. For all your mortgage needs, check out XLLending.com. And for me, you don't want to see any carryover from that Wazzou game. Close the book on it. You got to have a short memory when it comes to bad games like that. Just put it out of your mind. Go out there and play like you're capable. Hang on to the ball. That's the big thing. You hang on to the ball. Don't have any turnovers. There's no reason you shouldn't win this game. And then kick them while they're down. USC's, they're playing for a lame duck coach right now. They're not playing very inspired. A lot of those kids are kind of just out for themselves as far as their draft position. They don't know who they're going to be playing for next year.
Their NIL deal.
Yeah, and and you don't want to give them any momentum. Don't give them any confidence. There's a lot of kids on this ASU team from Southern California.
Oh yeah.
After last year, the way that game against SC finished up, they got revenge on their minds. They want to go out there and play well. So go out there and do it.
I've heard him say it in practice and spring ball. They all have this game circled, even though they weren't supposed to look ahead. This one really, really did not sit well with them at the end of last year. And it was because there were 2 1% plays that wound up beating them, and they knew they were better. SC's the diehard fans who I respect over there, who has been through thick and thin, had told me we outplayed them. We flat out outplayed those guys, except for those 2 1% plays. So yeah, this game means something to these guys. These kids who were there last year.
These all the SoCal Devils, they need to go out there and play like they're capable. Play to the best of their ability, because a lot of the guys on the opposite of them, they played against Pop Warner, they played against in high school. They know a lot of those kids. Go out there and play like capable. Don't let there be any hangover from the last 2 games.
Yeah, I think with London gone, it's just, really they're down to 2 receivers, maybe a third, but there's just that big target, that big 50-50 ball guy.
The go-to guy. Who are you going to go to when you need it on third down, when you need a first down?
He's 6'5". He can jump out of the gym. He's the most athletic kid, had the biggest range I've seen in years. You don't have to worry about that, but that's not your responsibility anymore. Go out and ball hawk. And
you don't have to game plan for that anymore. Yeah, exactly.
I think dropping 7, you'll be fine.
They've had trouble protecting the quarterbacks this year. I mean, both the quarterbacks have had injury problems at one point or another. So yeah, definitely you pin your ears back a little bit, because neither of these quarterbacks are very mobile. They're pocket passers. So
yes, and so because he's not going to move out of that, he doesn't have a lot of range, folks. That means your chances of getting at him are a lot really increased if you can find somebody to get around that edge.
Yeah, and they haven't played a lot. I mean, they haven't really played, I think, one true pocket passer. And that's the key of Stanford this year. Everybody else has been either a mobile quarterback or at least athletic enough to get out of the pocket. These kids, they want to stay in the pocket. They want to have play from the pocket, and so just pin your ears back, get after them a little bit. Yeah, you certainly want to drop 7, but hopefully you can get pressure with the front 4, and then pick your spots when you blitz. I think if you get these quarterbacks uncomfortable, they'll make some mistakes.
And I kind of threw a potpourri of things here at the end. Obviously, we want to go out and just dominate. This is a team we should be able to run against with the impunity.
We're giving up 144 yards a game on the ground. So
yeah, I think we should. I think 150 and above really should be the goal. Something like that. 175 probably wins this game. Keep using that fullback hatch to destroy people. Let them come up and pick up those linebackers. I sure would love to see Ngata play more. I don't know why they're holding him back, other than maybe he's just not practicing as well. And maybe they're just worried about, I mean, obviously you put a ball on the ground and that would meet, but at practice, I don't think he's putting the ball on the ground. But he sure is a nice change of pace. He seems to hit the hole faster, harder, faster and quicker. And I just keep going back to that BYU game where he had, the 88-yard drive that he was dominating.
First drive of the second half. Yeah, he was very, very effective.
Just had them on their heels.
But, hopefully also you get Rashad White back in this game. I certainly like to see him back, because he's such a big part of this offense. He's a nice safety, safety outlet for Jaden. If they get him back, I think they kind of missed him at certain points in against Washington State.
I thought it was a factor in the game.
Yeah. So if they can get him back, I think that'll definitely help as well.
Do me a favor, folks. This is a game where it's going to take all 4 quarters. I think. I don't think we're going to get blown. No one's getting blown out of this game. I think we just have to keep the pedal down. And when you hear that stupid band of theirs playing that fight song, take out Take out a dollar bill and just wave it out. Dun, 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 dun,
Is
dun,
the
dun.
band traveling? Are they traveling?
Oh God, yeah. I guarantee you that alumni group will get them over here. But every time they start the thing, take your money and just wave it out. Dun, 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 dun. You know, show them that.
They are the University of Spoiled Children. So yeah,
Yeah,
I know.
best team money can buy.
Yes, sir. All right, so that'll take us into our predictions as always. Like John, I think this is going to be a close game, but I think it'll be a somewhat high-scoring game. Both of these offenses have shown abilities to put points on the board. I think ASU's defense is still scuffling, but I think they'll force a couple turnovers that'll ultimately be the difference in this game. I got ASU 34-30 over the Trojans.
Yeah, I think we pull away. I think we make an adjustment at half. We make the right adjustments and we pull away. We give them three. They'll get 3 scores. I don't see more than that. It looks like you've got 4 scores in here, but this is right around what each team has been doing of late. So it's kind of like where I think we'll wind up winning by 9.
So hopefully that'll be the case. We've missed on both of our predictions the last couple weeks.
I think everybody in the West
Yeah.
Coast, certainly the wise guys took a
Very
took a,
true.
took a bath.
We were by 16.5 against Wazzou. So
the wise guys took a real bath. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
And yet they still have us at 9.5 point or 8.5 point favorites.
Very good.
Yeah.
Okay, so that'll do it for this week on Running with the Devils. Wear gold. Get your tickets now because this game looks like it's going to be close to, if not sold out entirely. At least it's what Sun Devil football Twitter's saying. So let's go out there, wear gold, be loud, forks up, topple the Trojans. We'll see you next week.